What is up everybody, Skratch coming up with another Raid Shadow Legends video. In this video we're gonna cover the top raw damage dealers for Clan Boss. So we kind of covered some damage dealers for Clan Boss a couple of months ago, but we mainly focused on the Bad Eater team, mainly unkillable team. So this time around we're gonna cover literally the best raw damage dealers for any sort of teams. We don't really care about the teams, we're just gonna talk about the damage dealers. And of course, I will give you a couple of hints where exactly you can use most of these champions, how to use these champions in what sort of teams. We're not gonna rank them like number 1, 2, 3, 4 as usual. You guys know the drill. We're gonna start talking about them, moving over from faction to faction. We're gonna start from the Shadowkin. Let's go from the bottom to the top. We do have Jintoro right here, guys. So honestly, he's one of the best raw damage dealer for Clan Boss in the entire game. He's not just there in the very first place, but this skill right here, honestly, is just going crazy. He can deal 2+ million damage whenever this thing it happens. So every fourth use of this skill, he's gonna deal an insane amount of damage. Now, how would I build this champion? Of course, it will depend in what sort of team I'm gonna use the champion, but most probably I would go on a Relentless set or Reflex set, for example. Now we have the set AI, we can actually set the skills to make sure he's using this skill as well, and he can decrease the cooldown of this skill even more. Defense down, weaken, he's just ready to pump up a lot of damage. Now, in this faction, there are a couple of decent hitters. He can do a bit of damage as well and add some poisons, this and that. But honestly, we're just gonna cover only the best of the best. So forgive me if I'm not gonna give a shout out to every single champion in the entire game. Moving over to the next one that I kind of have on the list. From the dwarves, honestly, it kind of works a bit broken. We have Geomancer. So his passive right here, it kind of reflects damage back, right? Decreases the damage all allies receive by 15 and deflects that damage onto each enemy under a HP burn debuff placed by this champion. Whenever this champion is attacked, deflects 30% of the damage instead. So this should work the same way it works with Brogni, for example. You could be able to run on him a toxic set and he's gonna reflect poisons on the enemy, on the Clan Boss. He's gonna hit Giant Slayer hits, so this champion right here is better on different affinities than Void, where the Clan Boss actually hits the enemy team multiple times. He has fairly decent multipliers as well, but that's kind of like what makes him so crazy. The passive right here, guys. The reflect damage from all the team is actually insane. We have him, and then of course we have Brogni right here. Very similar with the other champion, he does hit pretty hard with the rest of the skills as well. Now, he is not really suitable for unkillable teams. The other champion works for unkillable teams without a problem, but Brogni right here, I feel like you'll be getting a better use out of him on a normal team. Of course, 2-to-1 ratio teams are the best out there for this sort of champions, but you want to have like a high defense team, something like this. I feel like that's where Brogni is gonna be the best. Same sort of passive, whenever an ally under a shield buff is attacked, reflects 25% of the damage inflicted on the shield back to the attacker. Also, heals that ally by 25% of the damage inflicted on the shield. If there are multiple champions in the team with this skill, only one will activate. So, Geomancer with him together, apparently they're not intended to work together. I'm not sure if they actually do or no. We do have attack up from him, we have immunity, we have cleanse, shield, so HP burn. He does a lot of stuff for the team though. He has pretty tanky stats as well, but under Priest Brogni can hit like an animal. Next champion that we have on the list, from the Knights Revenant, I kind of want to mainly just give a shout out, you know. We do have Whisper. Whisper, she deals a pretty good damage on the Clan Boss, guys, so her hits, we do have weaken, extra turns. She's mainly for unkillable teams. I wouldn't run her on a high defense team because she's pretty squishy, hard to build champions that are attack based for high defense teams to make them to deal damage as well. So unless if it's not a Draco, it kind of like not worth it to throw it in there, you know. So she deals a lot of damage with this skill. She hits pretty hard with the A1 as well. We have a weaken from the A1. We have increased attack, increased crit rate on her from her A2. And attacks one enemy 2 times, grants an extra turn if the target is under defense down and weaken. I still wish that she would actually bring in defense down as well rather than just weaken. And her passive, 10% chance to grant extra turn whenever this champion lands a critical hit. Increases damage inflicted on bosses by 20%. So that kind of explains why she makes more damage than some of the other champions. Moving over to the next faction in here, guys. Dark Elves. It doesn't feel like we have like insanely high damage dealers. You know, like Foley doesn't do a lot of damage. Xavia, she does bring pretty decent damage with the Giant Slayer and the poisons, but overall her hits are not like out of the ordinary, right? That's kind of like the thing we're looking for. Same with the Vizier. Giant Slayer hits, yeah, they're pretty good, but kind of like that's about it, you know? In the Undead Hordes, we do have Rotos. He deals fairly good damage. It's not as insane as he used to be, honestly, but again, mainly unkillable teams. You can run him on a high defense team just because of his passive, so that can actually work out pretty good. But it hits her with his A1, he has defense down. Attacks one enemy, again, this skill hits super hard. Most of this thing doesn't really work for the clan boss, so it's not as important. He will increase his HP a bit from here, so that's kind of what matters. And attacks one enemy, will ignore 60% of the target's defense. That's kind of like what it matters on his skill there. And the passive is pretty good, not being able to get one shot at the instant, you know, if you make him a bit squishy, because you see his stats, especially HP, is not super high overall, so it's a bit harder to build him super tanky. The next champion in here, guys, we do have Anax. He has fairly high multipliers. Like on one of the skills, he has a 6-point multiplier, and he has a very high base attack as well, so he will deal tons of damage. It's a bit more tricky to build him for some of the unkillable teams out there, but as long as you manage to kind of run the speeds in the right order, you'll be able to use him without a problem, and I can guarantee you love him. He has defense up and increased attack from his passive. Depending by what sort of team you're gonna run him onto, each one of the buffs, they're gonna benefit him overall. We have 100% chance for weaken right here, and he self-heals as well. Then decreased accuracy and poison from the A2, and from the A1 we have defense down. Of course, how I said, build for damage is better. If you build him for a high defense team with a decent amount of attack, it's gonna be hard for you to kind of balance attack and defense down. That's why I don't really recommend you to build champions like this. They're not gonna perform as good, and eventually you're just gonna get let down and get disappointed, being like, well, that champion didn't really work that great for me. Mashalid as well hits pretty hard on clan boss too. You can run him on a 2-to-1 ratio teams. He's very unique because of increased speed and extra turn at the same time. Super great skill overall. He's the only one that can do 2-to-1 ratio without having an extend buffs duration with an increased speed buff, you know. Heals from the A1, we have the Leech as well, so it's so much easier for you to build teams with Mashalid. And not only unkillable, high defense teams as well, they can actually bring you an insane amount of damage, guys. Mashalid right here, MVP. Moving over to the next faction. In the Demon Spawns. Now, in the Demon Spawns, we have one of the best raw damage dealers in the entire game, and that's Lord Shazar. Why is he so good? So he's a bit more tricky to run in teams because he's gonna get extra turn, he's gonna get the increased speed buff. But what you can do right now actually is, because of the team presets and fix the skills, you can actually block this right here. I'm actually gonna do a video on him and see how he's gonna do on a slow man-eater team, something like that, without having to use this skill right here. We're just gonna rely on his A1. Damage increases by 15 for each debuff on the target. So I'm gonna run a Vizier, a Draco, and him on the same team. Maybe, or I'll see something crazy like this, where we have a lot of debuffs on the boss, and see what sort of damage we're gonna ramp in there, you know. Attacks all enemies, bombs, they don't do a lot of damage. This is a speed aura for arena. It's not gonna help us on the clan boss, but mainly what matters is this right here. Depending what team you're gonna run, of course, you can use this without a problem. So it's not a necessity to block it, but you do have the opportunity to do that, just in case if you haven't thought about it. So Lord Shazar, Krutraxa, another great damage dealer, mainly because of the Giant Slayer hits as well, and she has a 4 hit, right? So that brings in a lot of damage, guys. So her A1 attacks one enemy 4 times, ignores 50% of the enemy defense. Her A2 attacks one enemy, 100% chance to land weaken for 2 turns, 100% chance to remove 2 random buffs from the target, grants an extra turn. So if you don't want her to grant that extra turn, again, you can lock that right here and use only the A1, just Giant Slayer over and over and over and over again. So pretty good base attack as well. Unkillable teams, 100%. I would not run her on a high defense team, no way. I still don't have her, she looks badass. I really want to pull the champion. So please, this week, have a nice 10x. Let me open my void shards as well, because I've been saving them for such a long time. Now, out of this faction, not many other champions that they deal huge amount of damage. At least, I'm not familiar with any other champion from here. Initwi, he's kind of like meh with his multiplayer, so I wouldn't put him in a top best damage dealers, honestly. Moving over to the Orcs. How I specified, we're not gonna talk only about attack damage dealers. We're gonna include defense damage dealers as well, because some of them, they can deal insane amount of damage, and no one else but Brago, right? Defense up, attack down, and an insane amount of damage. Like, every skill hits pretty good, but overall, he's a A3 right here, decreases attack down pretty good. This one right here as well goes off the roof if you build him properly. Good crit damage, good crit rate, good defense. They can hit for 200k plus. So those are pretty good numbers. When you run a high defense team, he's gonna be great in there, honestly. The best champion, him and Elton, when we're talking about those sort of teams. Then we have Krella right here. Not only she buffs ally attacks, but she hits super hard as well. If you build her for damage, guys, trust me, you'll have zero regrets. And of course, she goes with unkillable teams, with attack-based champions. Just so like this, all the team will benefit from that increased attack from her skill right here. Increase attack, increase crit rate, ally attack right here, and attacks the enemy. So this skill right here hits for 150k, 200k, depends how good is she built. Her A1 as well, it hits hard again. So every one of the skills hits for 100k. Even the A1 can easily go to 100k with defense down and weaken if you have her on a nice build. Really a big fan of a Krella Witch Arm, guys. One of my favorite ally attack champions in the entire game, honestly. Just because she brings a lot of stuff and she deals tons and tons of damage. In the Skinwalkers, of course, we cannot forget Brachus. I've done 1k Ultra Nightmare with Brachus on multiple teams. Giant Slayer on him, like, look at this. Attacks one enemy 6 times. The first hit has a 100% chance to place a weaken debuff for 3 turns. Self-heal, increase attack on all the team right here. Attacks one enemy 3 times. And here attacks one enemy. So all the Giant Slayer procs, the damage he deals, guys, is actually insane. He has pretty badass multipliers as well. But overall, an extremely great damage dealer for most of the unkillable teams out there. Moving over to the next faction, guys. So, Lizardman. We do have a couple of champions as well in here that deal pretty great damage. We're gonna start with Dracomorph. Yeah, we do have defense down, weaken, poisons from him, but that's not all. Attacks one enemy, damage increases by 10% for each debuff on the target. So, this skill right here, guys, with attack up can and max debuffs on the boss can do 300k plus on the A1. That's absolutely insane to get that from a A1. Super great damage from Dracomorph. He's not only a good debuffer, but an amazing damage dealer as well. I'm not gonna stay too much on Dracomorph because everybody is familiar with that champion. Fushan. Speed Aura can help you to fix your speeds for the team if you're struggling with the speed gear. Attacks 4 times at random. Lands defense down. Attacks all enemies 2 times. And the A1 attacks one enemy, has a 25% chance of placing an extra hit. And this one right here can go on and on and on. I've seen him doing 4, 5, 6 hits, honestly, just going like crazy. Pretty good base stats as well. Good amount of attack. Of course, I would prefer him on unkillable teams. But if you want to build a high defense team and you're struggling with the speeds, and you want to have some damage in there and a defense down, more or less, let's just say you could run Fushan in there as well. Resin, Giant Slayer, Monster, super hard hitting champion as well. Attacks one enemy 3 times. 20% chance to remove one random buff. Again, this is a fusion champion, not limited fusion, so everyone in the game can fuse this champion. I strongly suggest go and fuse him. Defense down and weaken. Attacks all enemies, decreases the turn meter by 100%. So he's not only good for clan boss, guys. He's just good all around. Defense down and weaken. Fully deplete turn meter on all the enemy team. And Giant Slayer on the A1, remove buff as well. Awesome champion. Defense base, so he's not gonna disappoint this champion. Trust me when I'm telling you that. Jumping to the next faction, in the All Green tribes, we don't really have like a crazy damage dealer. Crush the Mangler can deal some damage. Occult Brawler more or less as well, but he's more of a poisoner rather than a raw damage dealer. So nothing like out of the ordinary to be like, wow, this champion breaks the clan boss. In the Barbarians though, we have Elton right here. So him and Iron Brago, amazing champions. Defense-based champions, defense up, attack down buffs and debuff. So they're like the best champions to use in high defense teams if you need an attack down or a defense up champion. He has the aura as well, increases ally defense in all battles by 33. Defense up. This skill right here, if Elton is built properly, can hit for over 250k. This one right here, over 150k. So just those numbers out there, they're insanely high numbers, you know, just pure damage, nothing else. Now, talking about the king, the guy that gets the crown for being the #1 raw damage dealer champion in the entire game, Turvold, Void Affinity, and boy, he can hit for over 500k per hit, over 500,000 per hit, guys. He deals so much damage. This skill right here, Juggernaut, attacks one enemy 2 times. Damage increases according to the number of buffs on this champion. If the target is killed, resets the cooldown of this skill. So the more buffs, the more damage. How I built the team yesterday, the Endless Buff team, he would have been amazing in that team as a damage dealer. Imagine all those buffs on him. His A2, increase attack, increase crit rate, increase speed, and grants an extra turn. So he buffs all this and then gets the turn, deals a ton of damage. Is a bit trickier to build him in some of the teams. So it's not gonna work with every single team in the game out there, guys. But if you manage to make it work on a high defense team or unkillable team, he's gonna slam that clan boss, honestly. His A1 attacks one enemy 2 times, a 75% chance to land weaken debuff for 2 turns. Relentless, not so much unless he's unkillable. You can go with Relentless there without a problem, but if it's not that, maybe you just don't want to go Relentless. You might want to pick a different option for his kit, you know. But Turvold, guys, a beast of a champion. I don't own him either, but Victor, he dealt 145 million damage only with Turvold alone on Ultra Nightmare, on his new world record, 300 plus million damage, something like that. We do have a couple of other fairly decent champions, but not really to make it into the very best top as a raw damage dealers, guys. They are decent for unkillable teams, but that's about it. In the Sacred Order, Cupidus, Sir Nicholas, yeah, let's just say decent. But we do have Phoenix, guys. Now with the AI fixture, we can actually lock his A2 and A3 never to be used, have him on a team that gives him attack up, and literally just make him use the A1. So this right here is gonna do on a decent build 150 plus K per hit. You have debuffs on the clan boss, he's gonna hit twice. So that's gonna make him deal like 300k damage per hit, right? So that's gonna be amazing from Phoenix. Definitely a champion that is worth it to be thrown on your team if you are missing some of the very top high-end damage dealers in the game. Phoenix, don't sleep on Phoenix. In the High Elves, guys, honestly, I don't really see anything that much. Yeah, Balinor, let's just say he can deal a bit of damage, increases the crit rate, defense down weaken. He has some sort of utility for the team there. But I feel like it doesn't hit like extremely hard. I think the highest I've seen was like 150k, and that was a pretty decent build if I remember it correctly. In the Bannerlords, here as well, we kind of have Knight Errant, decent but very situational. I feel like he might not be worth it that much. I know I made a video a while ago on him, but he feels like he's better on a block damage teams, unkillable teams, more or less. He can hit pretty hard with his A3, like he slams with that. But Septimus, with his A2, not as a niche to say like this, 200, 300k damage per hit with the A2, 100k with the A1, and he extends debuffs as well, so you can use him as a stun taker or something like that. But Septimus, definitely not a bad choice for clan boss. It feels like at the moment he's kind of like going down because the dungeons, they don't really need him. It feels like for whoever is in the end game that Septimus was kind of like a bad investment at the moment to have multiples of him. Luckily, I never pulled the second one, so I haven't invested in a second one. So I'm just gonna have to be happy with this one. I made him one-shot spider. Bang, that was awesome. But do let me know in the comments down below which one is your ultimate favorite raw damage dealer in the entire game, guys, and why. In what sort of team are you using your favorite champion? I do appreciate all of you guys watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe for more content, turn on notifications to see when we upload next, and I'll see you all soon on another video. Till then, peace out.